I think what I learned, one of the things that I think I learned on my trip, you know, as a socialist, the word socialism does not frighten me, and I think it's probably fair to say that the Nicaraguan government is primarily a socialist government. You may recall way back in, when was it, 1961, they invaded Cuba, and everybody was totally convinced that Castro was the worst guy in the world, that all the Cuban people were going to rise up in rebellion against Fidel Castro. They had forgotten that he educated their kids, gave them health care, totally transformed the society. But just because Ronald Reagan dislikes these people does not mean to say that the people in their own nations feel the same way.
How do you find the sincerity of Sandinista leaders?
I was impressed. I was impressed by Father Descota because he is a very gentle, very loving man. Ortega is an impressive guy. Ernesto Cardenal is a funny-looking guy. He's gray hair. And he really does remind you of a hippie.
Did you have suggestions for them how they could organize their PR a little bit more effectively?
I think it's, yes. I mean, the point that I try to make to many of the people that I spoke to is they're getting killed in the American media. They just cannot compete. Reagan and his people are so sophisticated. They own the airwaves, of course. Reagan, the media, every time Reagan gives them a photo opportunity, thousands. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much for telling us another lie. You know, the media, of course, is not allowed to ask sharp questions of the president. That's not allowed. And, you know, my point to Ortega is they are not getting their message of what they are trying to do out to the American people. And there's just no question about that. And they just don't have that kind of sophistication to understand how to manipulate the media. As, you know, the White House has dozens of people who are trained. They are trained and well-paid people who are professional manipulators of the media. They have their contacts in CBS and NBC and ABC. That's what they're paid to do. They do it very, very well. You know, Ortega is the president of a country of 3 million people. They have probably one television station. They have no sophistication. They have no knowledge as to when you call. You know, they call press conferences that the media can't even use here in the United States because it's the wrong time. You know, there's a whole science around this, which they're not aware of. They have contacts now they've hired a public relations firm in the United States, and they're trying to improve it. But the main point is, I think they have got to very greatly improve their ability to communicate with the average American. And that's what I said.
Welcome to another one of my videos in my series titled Communism 101. My vantage point today on all the brouhaha of the Democratic election caucuses and primaries, I dare say, is a cry for help and a dare to all who watch this video to help me in getting this message across to as many people as we possibly can. It is, I believe, detrimental to the well-being and the future of our great nation. It is that crucial. Admittedly, to most all Americans of voting age, these early caucuses and primaries serve but as an indicator on which candidate is likely to win the presidential nomination of their party. As well they should. Now, historically, many of the candidates who win this early caucuses and primaries go on to become their party's presidential nominee, albeit this is not always the case, but nevertheless, a rather good indicator at this early stage of the game. For those of you who thrive on statistics, the results of the Iowa caucuses and the New Hampshire primary are telltale indicators that Bernie Sanders is the highly favored candidate to win the presidential nomination of the Democratic Party.
ABC News projects that Senator Bernie Sanders will win the New Hampshire primary.
According to a new New York Times poll, Sanders is peaking at a pivotal moment.
Vis-a-vis, Joe Biden, for all intents and purposes, can be written off. So what do these Iowa and New Hampshire results mean to America? And the answer is they're very much relative to where each of you stand, politically speaking, that is. To many Democrats, the rise of Bernie Sanders as the potential presidential candidate represents a threat of possibly losing the 2020 elections, only to the extent that many in the party believe that Sanders' extreme left positions will hinder the party's chances of beating Donald Trump in 2020.
As the 2020 race heats up, concerns are growing among Democratic voters that candidates like Senator Bernie Sanders will split the far-left vote.
To Republicans, on the other hand, Sanders' nomination could likewise, in the end, be beneficial, they think, to Trump.
Now, with Senator Bernie Sanders surging to the top of the Democratic field, many Trump allies are cheering him on, believing the self-proclaimed Democratic socialist will be easy to defeat in a general election.
Or so is the consensus amongst a conservative majority in the party. Bottom line is, we will only find out who's right and who's wrong on Election Day, on this forthcoming Tuesday, November the 3rd, 2020. Won't we? Regardless of who's right and who's wrong, my point of vantage today is a crude look at a reality which, coincidentally or otherwise, afflicts everyone in our nation, every single American, bar none. To me, the fact that even one single American can even consider the thought of having a Bernie Sanders as a potential president of the United States of America is simply said offensive, insulting, depressive, reprehensible, repugnant, but most of all, inconceivable. To me, the fact that a full-blown, overt, and undisguised communist can be the front-runner in the race to becoming the president of the United States of America, it's eerily scary. It is chillingly alarming, horrifically shocking, spine-chilling, and all rolled into one. Yet, just as scary, if not more, is the fact that no one, absolutely no one, in the public eye, not even some of the most outspoken conservative voices in the nation, dare mention the fact that our great nation has all but accepted the fact that communism is knocking in our door, and we're all doing nothing about it. Matter of fact, you could even say that communism has gained widespread support by many in mainstream America, as shown in the results of both the Iowa caucus and the New Hampshire primary. As a point of reference, the combined popular vote for Bernie Sanders in Iowa and New Hampshire was a combined total of 119,312 votes. That is 119,312 Americans who outright support and endorse communism. Mind you, this is just 2 out of 50 states in the Union. And again, to make matters worse, there isn't one voice in the country, not one that dares call a spade, including but not limited to even some of the most iconic, outspoken conservative voices in the nation. The question is why? Notably, the conservative wing of the nation has lost its practical battle. We have given in by allowing the use of politically correct colloquialisms such as it's the term socialism, progressive, liberals, leftists, and all the rest, instead of the true label, which is communism. What we're doing really is approving, condoning, and accepting the the most dreadful system known to mankind as a very normal, legitimate, and canonical alternative to capitalism and to democracy. Truly scary, friends. We are, in fact, accepting a system with a death toll of over 100 million people throughout history as a very run-of-the-mill, routine, commonplace alternative to our constitutional republic. My fellow Americans, for God's sake, wake up and smell the coffee once and for all. Just remember, on October the 30th, 2008, on the cusp of his historic presidential election, Barack Obama declared, "We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America."
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
Ironically, and you better think about this carefully, Bernie Sanders' platform, it's equally vowing to do a complete transformation of the United States of America.
This campaign, as I think all of you know, this campaign is not just about electing a president, it is about transforming America.
But you know what else we're going to try to do? We're going to try to transform the United States of America. Not only will we win this election, but together we will transform this country. 2020 is the year not only in which we defeat Trump, it is the year in which we begin to transform this country.
So, folks, what do you think that these two, Obama and Sanders, mean when they commit to transforming the United States of America? The answer is that transformation to them is a change to becoming a full-blown communist state. That's simple. So the so-called transformation vowed by Obama before and by Sanders now, it's one that represents the end of our glorious United States as we now know it, the end of capitalism and our constitutional republic, the end of the rule of law, which is already in evidence, a setback to the Stone Age, where more time will be allowed to phony climate change threats than to the nation's healthcare business, a setback to where your government will become a full-blown dictatorship, and your children will be owned by the state, by your government, and not by you. If given the opportunity, if allowed into power, Sanders, Ocasio-Cortez, and all these communists now plaguing our nation, albeit with the support of many mainstream Americans, and with the silent condemnation, amnesty, and absolution from most conservatives, by continuing to label this communist takeover as everything and anything other than its real name, the communists, will eventually prevail, and there will be a time when it will be too late. I beg of you to please help me to get this message across again before it's too late to turn back. I think that for those of you who may question this narrative and what may appear to be a far out, unorthodox, out of this world or offbeat vantage point, all I can say to you is think again. Think about Iowa and New Hampshire and think of what this old, decrepit, dilapidated, and decaying communist Bernie Sanders claims to stand for every time he opens that big mouth of his. Think again, folks, and please, let's forward this message to as many people as we possibly can. There is still time. Our very first objective to combat this ruthless plague of communists is to create the same sense of belligerence, combativeness, and contentiousness that the communists, have against us, while we all remain quasi-immune to the transformation that has long been taking place in our great nation. To end, I chuckle at the hypocrisy we show as a nation with our magnanimous display to combat the infamous coronavirus and the alleged chances of it becoming a pandemic threat to the world. I think that all the viruses in the world combined cannot be as threatening to mankind as is communism. Yet, I don't see us doing anything to prevent communism or communism's threat to the United States and to the world as one becoming of potential pandemic proportions. May God save us, and may God save the United States of America. Thank you.